Good morning. I'm Brother Wayne, and this is the Guiding Lamp Podcast. Let's start out with a word of prayer. My Lord, my God, most gracious and most merciful, I ask that you will intervene in this podcast and that what is spoken or taught is pleasing to you. We need your intervention into our life and all of our affairs when we ask that you will continue to bless us, our families, and loved ones, and keep your hedge of protection around us all. These things we pray in Jesus Christ's name. Amen. Today I want to speak about seeing is unlike believing. Seeing is unlike believing. You see, in this world, it says, you hear all the time, seeing is believing. But in the spiritual world, that's not true. In the spiritual world, believing and you will see. And I can say this because we are spiritual beings living in a physical body. I'm going to say that again. We're spiritual beings living in a physical body. In Genesis chapter 2, verse 7, it says, God formed man from the dust of the earth, and then he breathed the breath of life into his nostrils. Spiritual beings in a physical body. Some people say, oh, we evolved from apes. I don't believe that because I still see apes and they ain't changing to no man or no woman. Some people believe that there was a Big Bang theory and boom, all of a sudden we were all here. I'm not believing that either. I believe, as Genesis 2 said, God formed us all from the dust of the earth. In John chapter 11, we're going to go there. We're going to start from the New Testament today. In John chapter 11, we find Jesus, Lazarus, Mary, and Martha, right? So Lazarus was a friend of Jesus, and he had taken ill. He was very ill, actually. And his sisters, Mary and Martha, sent message to Jesus to come because they knew that he could heal their brother. Well, Jesus got the message, but he did not come right away. In fact, he waited. And by the time he got there, it had been 4 days. And Martha, and this is John chapter 11, and we're going to go through verse 20 through 40. Hope you're reading along. And Martha is like, Jesus, where you been, man? Like, if you was here, you could have healed him, right? And Jesus is like, he will rise again. And Martha's like, well, I know he'll rise again in heaven, but I'm saying you could heal. Jesus said, no, he can rise again if you can believe. She goes, tells her sister Mary, Jesus is here. And Mary runs out. And she says the same thing to Jesus. Jesus, what took you so long? If you was here, our brother would not have died. And Jesus in verse 40 says to Mary and Martha, if you can believe, you will see God's glory. If you can believe, you will see God's glory. Believe, and you will see God's glory. And I like that because there was everybody was there mourning Lazarus, and they were comforting his sisters. So Jesus turns to the crowd, I love this, and he prays out loud. He says, Father, this is verse 41 and 42, in John chapter 11, Father, I know that you always hear me, but I'm praying out loud for these others to hear. because I know that you can make this happen, bring him up from the dead. But I'm saying this in front of these unbelievers. See, Jesus is letting them get invited into his prayer to God because he's trying to call on them to believe. And we know that Jesus does bring Lazarus out of the tomb. I want to go on to Mark chapter 9 and verse 11. Verse 14 in Mark chapter 9. In Mark chapter 9, we find that's the transfiguration. Jesus is coming down from the mountain with James, Peter, and John. They just was at the top of the mountain witnessing this great transfiguration. And when they're coming down the mountain, they see all the disciples, right? And they're talking. And just bear with me now, because I want you to get this belief thing. And they see all the disciples talking and arguing with these people. Everybody's around, gathered around. So Jesus goes over to them and is like, what's up? Like, what's the problem? What's going on? And a man who's in the crowd says, well, Jesus, I brought my son to your disciples, right? And because he is demon possessed, and he jumps from the fire into the water, and from the water into the fire, and he's foaming at the mouth. And I asked your disciples to heal him, and they couldn't do it. And so Jesus, I'm saying to you, like, if you could have mercy on us, and if you could heal my son. And Jesus is like, if I can? If I can? No, if you can believe, I can. And the man, I like what he says. The man, like so many of us, he says, Jesus, I do believe. Help me in my unbelief. Yeah, a moment of unbelief. I have that. I can bear witness to that because I have moments of unbelief, moments of doubt. Jesus, I do believe, but help me in my unbelief. You know, that man, that faith played a part because the faith is the activation. Your belief and your faith is the activation to any miracle that God can do in your life. I'm going to give you an example. Like, because you got to have faith and belief. Like a parachute, right? You know, I come from military, right? And then people that jump out of planes, right? They got parachutes, skydiving, whatever. And before, you don't pull the cord in the plane to see if the parachute works before you jump out, because if you do, you're going to die. Right? You don't pull the cord first. Oh, it worked. I can jump out. No. You jump out on faith, and you pull the cord, and the parachute opens. Right? Now, I know you're probably saying, Brother Wayne, I ain't jumping out of no plane. How about that? I ain't skydiving, so that don't apply. Let me give you something that does apply. Make this applicable to you and someone in your life. A wise man once taught this. He said, if you take a newborn baby just from its mother's womb, just cut the umbilical cord, just from its mother's womb, nobody taught that baby how to suck. Nobody taught that baby how to pull. Nobody even told that baby where its nourishment is coming from. But if you take that baby and place it on its mother's breast, that baby will begin to suck and pull. It's kind of like what they say in Hebrews chapter 11. In Hebrews chapter 11, it says, faith is the substance of things hoped for, the evidence yet unseen. Faith is the substance hoped for, the evidence yet unseen. You put that baby on his mother's breast, newborn, it will begin to pull and suck. Faith for the substance hoped for, and eventually that baby continue to pull, milk will come out. The evidence yet unseen. That's faith. What are you hoping for? What are you believing for? Because if you can believe, you can see. What are you believing for? What in your life are you believing for that you do not see? Or you're in this world, seeing is believing. Got it backwards. In John chapter 5, verse 6, Jesus is in Jerusalem, and he's at this place called the Sheep Gate. It's the pool of Bethesda. And people would go there to get healing. They would lay beside the pool. When the water stir, you jump in and you get healed from whatever you're ailing. Well, there was this man there. He had been laying there for 38 years. Because when the water stirs, he had nobody to take him to the pool. He couldn't get to it because he was lame, paraplegic, whatever. Jesus sees the man. He says to him, "Do you want to be healed?" The King James Version says, "Do you want to be made whole?" This text is asking us that. Do you want to be healed? Do you want to be made well? Do you want to be made whole? Do you want recovery from whatever it is that binds you? Whatever it is. Jesus says to the man, in the King James Version, he says, rise. In an NLT version, it says, stand up. Rise, pick up your mat, sir, and walk. See, because like I said, you have to play a part in your healing. Jesus didn't tell the man, okay, well, hey, boom, pop, you're well. And just left you, whatever you're ready, go ahead and get up. No. No. Stand up, pick up your mat, and walk. Because you got to play a part in your healing. What is it that you hoping for and praying for? You know, like even something as superficial or physical as a lottery. The lottery, listen, you can't wake up one morning and say, out of nowhere, I hit the lottery. Did you play? You got to go play. You got to go stand in line. You got to go put your money in it. You play a part in that. And even though that's just about mathematically impossible, you got to play a part. You got to do something to play a part in your miracle. And this is what it's saying. You must believe, and then you can see. I want a condo in Miami. Okay, well, you better start putting some nickels in a jar. Work on your credit, something. You have to believe that it can happen, and then you will see. I'm going to close with this. Jesus is in his own hometown, right? And he goes to the synagogue, right? He's familiar. This is his own hometown. And he's there and he's teaching. And everybody's there, right? And they are captivated by him and his teachings. They're like, whoa. I mean, it's like all eyes on me. You remember that song? All eyes on me. He's teaching. And they look and like, whoa. Wait a minute. Ain't that Joseph's son? Ain't that Mary's boy? Where'd he get this wisdom from? Where'd he get this love? And because of that, they couldn't believe him. And in verse 54 or 58, it says, because of their unbelief, Jesus could do no miracles there. because of their unbelief. The King James Version says, and I hope that you're reading along. I tell you these verses and these give you these addresses. This is Matthew 13, because I'm hoping that you're reading along in your word, man. And if you don't, I'm hoping that this is enticing you to and encouraging you to let you know the word is there. It's interesting. So I'm sorry, I got off on the tangent. Matthew 13, and he's saying like in 58, Matthew 13, verse 58, it says that Jesus could not do any miracles there because of their unbelief. And in King James Version, it says that he could not do many works there because of their faithlessness. You see, the text is saying to us, this is what let me bring it home to you. The text is saying, if you don't believe, how must I show you or give to you what you're asking for if you already don't believe that it's possible? If you already don't believe that it's possible, that I can give you something in your life, how can I do it? Oh, no, it's not like seeing is believing. You have to believe, and that will activate the things that you desire and hope for. Believe and you will see. Now pick up your mat and walk. I'm Brother Wayne. I thank you for listening. And I pray that you've heard something here that will help you or you found interesting. And if it is, I hope that you will share it with someone. I'm Brother Wayne, and this is the Guiding Lamp Podcast. Thanks for listening.